Hello everyone, welcome to round 5 of Grand Prix Nashville 2012. Rich Hagan and Mr. Ben Swartz with you for all the action between two terrific North American players. You are going to see Owen Turtenwald and you are going to see David Sharfman. There is Owen. He has 11 Grand Prix top 8s to his name. And I guess...
Player of the year.
Yep, and I guess the only blemish, no wins. On the other side, someone who has won at the very highest level. You're looking at your Pro Tour Nagoya champion from 2011, Mr. David Sharfman, the Floridian, works for Cool Stuff Inc. down in Orlando. So these two getting ready to go. We know that Owen is red-white, and Sharfman has a little bit of red for splashing a brimstone volley somewhere in there. So,
I'll have you know that your comment about Werewolves of London, my mom actually heard because she's watching the cast.
See?
So I guess I am actually in trouble, but thank you, Mom, for watching.
Thanks for watching, absolutely.
So Wolf bitten captive, and a Silver Chase Fox starts the game off for David.
And that's kind of bad for Owen, because one of the things he said he wanted to do with his deck was get aggressive early, get some early damage in, get piling away.
I mean, Owen does have a Gather the Townsfolk here to sort of maybe stall if David is being really aggressive, or maybe get some extra aggression in himself if he's got, maybe he's got to rally the peasants as being a white-red deck to be able to get some more damage in. We'll see here. Looks like he's going to use burning oil to get rid of Silver Chase Fox. And have David Sharfman take one from one of the human tokens.
So Sharfman will send back the other way.
No pump from the wolf-bitten captive, though. Instead, he'll opt to advance his board with a Voiceless Spirit. Voiceless Spirit is another one of these one-toughness creatures that, looks really good to start. It's first strike, 2/1 flyer.
Yeah, but I mean, that one actually does have some measure of protection for its one toughness. I mean, if you get as far as its one toughness...
That's true.
Certainly in the red zone, you've done something useful.
Handwear watch keep for Owen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see, from what I've seen right now, why Owen said that his deck was so underpowered. I've seen only pretty good cards from him, and I see some other cards in his hand.
And some pretty good cards there from David Sharfman. That'll be a Galvanic Juggernaut. There are very few cards. Sometimes you get to do, when you get an event like this, you get to wade through like 100 sealed decks, and you see what people are playing. Galvanic Juggernaut, one of the very, very few cards you can name in almost any format where 100% of the time it's in your deck.
Yeah. I mean, as an artifact and a power artifact, Faithless Looting here for Owen is interesting. It's not a card that people generally think about with regards to limited, but...
he likes it. He had it in very definitely in the red version of the R-sealed pool that he was looking at.
So maybe that's a sort of sleeper card that maybe not a lot of people think about with regards to limited.
Yeah, I mean, certainly once you get to draft, there are ways to maximize its value.
So let's see if Owen can use that this turn to do anything, but it looks like the only thing it was able to do was hold Wolf-bitten captive from transforming into the Corral and Horde killer. I mean, Owen, it's going to be tough. That Galvanic Juggernaut's really not great for him. He's going to keep trump blocking, it's going to keep untapping, or he's going to, I guess this turn he's going to take 5, but he's not going to be able to trade with any of David's other creatures. Mm-hmm. Ooh, and I see a travel preparations in David's hand that he's going to be able to use in flashback this turn if he so chooses, to power up maybe his Juggernaut and his Voiceless Spirit.
And here we see some preparations of the travel variety.
Oh, but he's not going to use it on his Juggernaut. He's going to use it on his Wolf-bitten captive.
Mm-hmm. I guess he feels that the Juggernaut is sufficiently vast and threatening.
I mean, another thing to note is that he wants to make
he's going to do the flashback, so maybe he divides it differently this time. Let's see. He's having a think. Oh, it is straightforward. Let's do it again.
I mean, he wants to make his Wolf-bitten captive big enough that it can get through a couple of Owen's creatures, right? without dying. So David's going to attack him with the Juggernaut and the Voiceless Spirit. So Owen's for sure taking 4. Whether or not he wants to chump block the Juggernaut is another question.
Yep. I'll send half of a Gather the Townsfolk away.
Yeah, untapping the Juggernaut to be able to attack another turn.
Owen draws a plane, so that's land number 5.
An interesting thing about Burning Oil, which Owen has in his graveyard, is it's one of those cards that even when it's an instant, you can sort of see it coming. Your opponent leaves up 2 mana, doesn't do anything on their turn 2, but when it's in the graveyard, it's so obvious. It's like a big red flashing light. Hey, look, you might not want to attack or block. I'm going to kill one of your guys.
You're making so many people at home miserable right now as they remember the times that they've watched.
I mean, I know I've forgotten stuff like that all the time. I mean, it happens to the best of us. So, looks like Owen's gonna use Rack with Madness to take out the Juggernaut. Rack with Madness is sort of like a time-shifted version of Kiku's Shadow. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, really? I do not recall that card.
That one was black. Target creature deals damage equal to its power to itself. But at least now Owen has a solution to that Juggernaut, which was probably giving him headaches. The rest of Sharfman's creatures right now can be dealt with a Burning Oil, but not anymore. Gavany Township.
Oh boy!
That is now active out of Sharfman is going to continually give his creatures +1/+1.
That's pretty exciting. That's one of my favorite cards from Innistrad for sure.
It's one of the hardest cards to beat.
Yeah.
And it's going to flip. It's going to transform the Wolf-Bitten Captive into the Kralin Horde Killer. I mean, granted, it's also going to transform Owen's Handwear Watchkeep into Bane of Handwear, but it must attack if able, so it's going to attack. No blocks from Sharfman. No reason for him to trade away his newly minted Kralin Horde Killer. And Owen's kind of in trouble here. Owen's most likely going to have to block the Kralin Horde Killer to, avoid taking, 6-9 damage? Because the Kralin Horde Killer can pump up, get +4/+4, and turn into a 9/9 if Owen chooses not to block.
Oof.
And instead, Owen's, just going to get in probably for 6 from his Voiceless Spirit.
David.
Or yeah, David's going to get in for 6. Owen's going to drop to 2, yes. That's not quite precisely what happens. David chooses not to activate his township. And Owen, at end of turn, is going to use a Morbid-activated Brimstone Volley to take out, I believe, the Voiceless Spirit. Yep.
Doing what he can.
Yeah, giving him a little breathing room. He needs something. Slayer of the Wicked.
Like
wow.
that, for example.
Take out that werewolf.
And also, currently, take out Gavany Township.
Yep.
It's sitting there doing nothing.
No creatures. It's not very impressive. Owen turned this game around. David's at 9. Owen, is going to be able to deal 8 damage next turn. He's got 8 damage on board. Whew,
that was pretty saucy.
We were all ready to just write it up, chalk it up to David.
Absolutely. Sharfman lays a land and passes. Owen untaps.
Sharfman's just going to take 8
Here
for the 1.
we go.
Does Owen have a burn spell?
It's Torch Fiend.
No artifacts there, right?
No. Sharfman looks
and that
scoops them up.
Wow. You think with travel preparations and Gavany Township.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That Slayer of the Wicked that Owen was holding since his opening hand.
And there's a little grin from Owen. It's like, wow. How did that happen?
I think that patience is really telling. Owen had the patience not to cast that Slayer of the Wicked until really he needed to. It was one of the things.
Isn't patience just about the most important quality for high-level Magic?
Yeah. And even more important in limited.
Right, okay. You think that's especially true in the
Yeah, I mean, knowing when to use your removal spells, not using them too early, not using them too late. Especially in sealed, where your removal spells are always limited. You know, it's a really important skill.
So for someone who's got such a great resume, Owen's got quite a lot of unfinished business. He's the player of the year. That makes him the pinnacle of the world's Magic players in terms of a 12-month period. But you look, and you start back at Columbus in 2007, runner-up in Legacy at that event. And then 5th, 2nd, 8th, 3rd, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 6th, 8th. That's bringing you right up to date with Seattle, Tacoma. And he straddles the formats. We've got sealed and draft and standard and legacy and extended. He covers them all. No wins. Then you go to the PTs and you go, Valencia, when he was still very young, he was only 17 when he played there. Top 32 San Diego 2010. At Paris, of course, in 2011. Top 8 at Nationals in 2011.
There's been a lot of heartbreak for Owen. I remember Valencia, he was really excited about it. He played Goblins, and he lost playing in the penultimate round to be able to draw in to top 8 because his opponent top decked a Living Wish to go get 10 of the Harvester out of his sideboard to kill his Goblin set.
Yes, he was certainly not happy when the top 8 was announced to that deck. I happened to be near him as they were announcing the top 8. He was like, not a happy man. But, you know, 5 years and some time with Channel Fireball have certainly worked wonders. And he is a terrific player, but he is really driven to finally get a win at something. It's like, you know, just get me a PT top 8, get me a GP win. Let's stop being almost better than almost everybody, and just let me be better than everyone once, please. would be the thing.
It's gone past that phase where, you know, everybody's joking. It's like, oh, so when's your next win? He knows it. He knows that he needs it, and he knows he's frustrated with himself too. But again, a terrific player. But so is Sharfman.
Well, David Sharfman, of course,
was able to get that trophy.
Yes. And interestingly, he said so. He said so beforehand. He was like, yeah, I'm going to win. And just meant it.
2 trophies from last year, right? Grand Prix Paris and Pro Tour Nagoya.
Yes. One on Sunday at both the first Pro Tours of the year. Yeah, so there you see Sharfman busy gearing himself up. A couple of other top 32s floating around. Top 32 of San Juan in 2010. But it's really, he was someone who was, when I first came into contact with him, which would have been, I guess, US Nationals 2008 at Chicago, where he made, I think he made the top 8 there that year.
Yep.
And he lost in the quarterfinals. And he was this constructed specialist who was just, he would even say, I basically couldn't draft. And sort of done something about that now.
I mean, he won his Pro Tour in draft format, right?
Wait, that's right. Looks like we're going to have a little more shuffling.
David's going to take a mulligan here.
He was so on top in that first game.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, I was thinking travel prep, first travel prep, then Gavinie Township. There's no way for Owen to win here.
He ought to be really struggling, and he had a slow start. It wasn't that slow. I mean, it was a turn 2 together the townsfolk, but by that time, Sharfman has already got stuff down. There's no way for Owen to nibble to 18 and then to 16 and make a 2-1 flyer, and it was Sharfman from the get-go in that one.
It's interesting how limited games can be like that. Somebody can be in the driver's seat for so long, and then, you know, something happens, a trade or here, there, combat step, and then boom, a card like Slayer of the Wicked turns the entire game around.
Such a good card. So Sharfman gets us going with the Forest, and now here is Owen trying to establish some aggro.
Ooh, but Mayor of Averbrook for David Sharfman. Owen's in a lot of trouble if he doesn't have something right this turn to either deal with it or at least make sure it doesn't transform. In a turn 2 Mayor of Averbrook.
Nasty.
There's not a lot that's better than that.
Sharfman lays land number 3. passes the turn. Over we go. Howlpack Alpha. So other werewolf and wolf creatures you control get +1/+1. Beginning of your end step, you get a 2/2 green wolf.
The important thing is your end step. So you won't get a green wolf token at the end of Owen's turn.
Yeah.
So if Owen can somehow play 2 spells this turn, which it looks like he will.
Oh, well done. Yes. Is that a Ricochet to go with Abyssinian Priest?
Not Ricochet.
No. What's this silly thing called?
Reckless Wave.
Thank you.
But actually, I think an interesting thing to note is, I think Owen was planning that from turn 2. He saw that he could make this play the next turn, and decided, instead of playing, maybe not.
So we go back to Howlpack Alpha, as Sharfman, he does pass the turn, but he also fails to lay a land. So maybe that's part strategy and part being forced.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, if I kept a hand I would keep a hand 2 lands and Mayor of Avabrook. They were the only cards. So he still can't be too unhappy because he still has, Howlpack Alpha for himself. But while he's been doing that, while he's been passing back and giving Owen free turns, Owen's been able to develop his board completely.
So now the question is, if the fact that Owen is sitting there humming and hawing suggests that he doesn't have an answer right now to the Howlpack Alpha, because if he did, it would surely be coming and would just be, Brimstone Volley to the face, go away, smash.
Doesn't look like that.
It's going to be the tap. Get it out of the way.
Maybe attack for 6.
Mm-hmm. Here comes the Turtenwald team.
I like that alliteration. Yep. David's going to drop to 13. Let's see what Owen's follow-up play is. I mean, Owen also doesn't look like he's got a 5th land, so I think I see a 5-drop in his hand. Ooh. He's going to cast Faith Shield and then Talia.
Yes.
To trigger Howlpack Alpha to transform again during David Sharfman's upkeep.
Nice. And this is what Owen wanted his deck to do.
There's a land it looks like for David, I believe. A mountain.
Yeah.
So
but whilst not dealing with Mayor of Avabrook, he's done a pretty good job of, dealing with Mayor of Avabrook. Gatstaff Shepherd and Dark Thicket Wolf come down for Sharfman, who's basically playing D.
Right, but it's like you said earlier, since David spent all this time sort of hemming and hawing, Owen's been able to amass this army and get in for a lot of damage. And even though that Mayor of Avabrook's really, really scary for Owen, if it ever transforms and gets some wolf tokens, or even now it's able to pump up the Gatstaff Shepherd, Owen really needs to get a quick win here, or destroy the Mayor of Avabrook. Something. I think I see a Rack with Madness in his hand, so maybe he's considering taking care of that Mayor of Avabrook. But that, I mean, obviously he needs to do that, but then to think, where does that leave him? Oh!
Well, I mean,
wow.
The thing is, he's still got the Priest. He's got Abyssinian Priest there, so that's
true.
a tapper. So you kill one.
Tap the wolf, maybe.
Yeah, and then anything's going to basically trade. Not quite literally, because he's got the Reckless Wave.
Here's the interesting thing. Owen has Wrath with Madness. It costs 4 mana.
Okay.
But it's weird. Owen cast this one creature, Talia, last turn. So he's 1 mana shy of being able to cast Rack with Madness to kill Mayor of Avabrook.
So it's a Doomed Traveller that's going in. And this sort of represents the whole, I'd like Morbid to occur. If you'd be so.
Yeah. I mean, also it allows Owen to get a flyer to maybe start flying over the wolves. David's not in that sort of range yet, but something will start. Maybe I didn't misread it. Read Owen's hand. Owen just wanted the 1/1 Spirit Flyer instead of the 1/1 Human. And now Howlpack Alpha transforms. David's likely going to get a wolf at the end of it. He is going to get a wolf at the end of this turn. And this is sort of where the tables might turn for David.
So that is, at the very least, a very big roadblock for a turn. Although...
The Torch Fiend from Owen might be able to take out that Galvanic Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Is he going to do it at end of turn? Yep, looks that way.
Let's just get it done. So Owen untaps with a much more balanced looking board now.
That's so insane. Halpack Alpha actually pumps the Dark Thicket Wolf because it's also a wolf.
Yeah.
So all of David Sharfman's creatures have +1/+1 right now, except for Halpack Alpha, of course. So it's 3/3 Halpack Alpha, 4/4 Gastaff Werewolf, 3/3 Dark Thicket Wolf, and 3/3 Unblockable Wolf. It doesn't actually have Unblockable. But
Sure.
The wolf token is going to trade with the Reckless Waif.
And now, Owen says, now I've got a Brimstone Volley with Morbid. Let's get that dead, shall we? Let's make the red zone a little bit fairer.
It's interesting to see here that both players are bottlenecked on mana. Owen and David are both stuck on 4.
Mm-hmm.
The Talia from Owen's actually hurting himself.
Sure, but I mean, it ought to favour Owen. He has a red-white deck that is meant to be aggressive.
Yeah. Although a Mausoleum Guard for David might change that.
Uh-huh.
That's a really tough creature to deal with.
Owen draws land number 5.
Thinking about attacking with that Spirit token. Owen's hand here is Angel of Alabaster.
Oh, Angel of Flight Alabaster,
Flight Alabaster.
the 4/4? Yep.
Or he could cast Rack with Menace, both of which cost 5 mana. It looks like he's going to cast the Angel. And I don't think he's got a Spirit in his graveyard.
Yeah, because at the beginning of your upkeep, you return target Spirit card from your graveyard to your hand. And again, for newer players, if that 1/1 Spirit were to die, because it's a token, it won't sit in the graveyard, so that won't come back. Tokens just hit the graveyard and then away they go.
Well, and Crushing Fines takes care of it.
Bye! Well, that didn't take long.
Nope. Gastaff Shepherd getting in for sort of 3 semi-unblockable damage thanks to Intimidate. Gastaff Howler, I'm sorry.
Well,
the transformed version of
Gastaff Shepherd. It's still in there, right?
Somewhere, deep within.
I think that's one of the... I think they introduced the double face with that card in preview, and it's kind of very flavorful in that... not so much when it transforms into the werewolf, but when it transforms back, and there's this really, devoted animal welfare shepherd going,
yep.
How did that happen?
All my sheep just randomly...
They have just randomly died. And there's some blood on my shirt.
So Faithless Looting for Owen allows him to maybe select a couple more cards. Looks like he discards a Blood Feud, because it's pretty uncastable. It would cost 7 here for him.
Right. Spirit comes in.
And a
Loyal Cathar will become black and unhallowed and unable to block if it transforms.
But thanks to those 2 spells, it'll retransform Gastaff Howler back into Gastaff Shepherd. So that Intimidate from the Howler is no longer an issue.
Mm-hmm. So Sharfman will run out Chapelgeist.
Owen will quickly tap that in a turn so he can keep bringing in
his 1 power of
beat down.
Yes, air quotes.
Not quite actual beat down. So if you're Owen here, I'm trying to think how he can get in that last 10 points of damage, or, well, it depends what he's thinking about. Whether he's thinking about being aggressive or thinking about how to protect his 12 life. He's going to continue getting in with the flyer. Cast Hinterland Hermit.
Yeah. So Sharfman draws 3 cards to work with. Would be winning a flying race with Chapelgeist, but there's Abyssinian Priest on the other side to say no.
That tapper, even against many of David's humans, is still so good. David clearly has 1 or 2 cards that can't possibly be humans, and Abyssinian Priest has been able to take care of those, especially the very, very important Chapelgeist here. So again, Owen will tap Chapelgeist with Avassinian Priest?
Abyssinian Priest.
Avassinian Priest?
Abyssinian. 1, 2, 3 for 5.
Avassinian.
There we go.
A little lesson in pronunciation.
Because obviously I have lots of relatives from Abyssinian, so I would know that.
Of course. That's like Barcelona, right? Catalan?
Something like that, yeah.
And travel prep, wow, for David.
Okay, so another big step forward for Sharfman.
But thanks to Talia once again, that costs 3, so David can't flash it back this exact turn.
Mm-hmm. So Owen now is going to flash back Faithless Looting.
Oof. All lands, it looks like, for Owen. Not what he wanted to see.
So in comes the Spirit.
8 turns.
Sometimes more of the same works just fine.
I mean, I don't think Owen's going to have 8 turns. He doesn't have that. He's not going to be able to afford that because of travel preparation, pumping up all of David's creatures. Owen's got to look to start blocking creatures now from David.
Mm-hmm. So here comes Dark Thicket Wolf.
Does Owen want to trade here? I mean, it's a tough spot because clearly Dark Thicket Wolf can pump itself back up. So the best sort of maybe chump trade he could do, no, it would be all his creatures. He'd have to just maybe block with Loyal Cathar if he wanted to flip it back over or get some value there.
Yeah.
Not take so much damage. But Owen just takes the 3 in post-combat.
It's Blazing Torch for Sharfman, who will then equip.
There's an answer for the Abyssinian Priest.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine it won't be long before Sharfman decides that's a very fine use for Blazing Torch.
Yeah.
And this is where you look at Owen's line of creatures and you think, wait, is this Scars of Mirrodin? It's like everything except one there's like 6 toughness between 5 creatures on that row right now. Like,
2-1, 2-1. 2-2, 1-1, 1-2.
Yeah, you know, it's like 7 or whatever. Yeah, it's just not great.
And since Owen drew another land that turn, Gastaff Shepherd will again transform into Gastaff Howler.
So this is the kind of point where, comparing to Max's deck in the last round against Pat Cox, you wonder whether Owen has much in the way of reach. Whether there's a way to kind of suicide his way from Sharfman from 7 to 5, and then go, oh, there's a Brimstone Volley with Morbid. That kind of thing is kind of the territory we're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Owen use the Brimstone Volley this game.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if he's got another direct damage spell.
Yeah, just what else he's got around.
He's got Burning Oil for creature removal.
And there's Wild Hunger, and that's enough. That scoop them up, Owen Turtenwald. Wild Hunger, one of my favourite cards, which is unusual because I hate snakes, generally. But as a card, very, very nice. +3/+1 trample.
David Sharfman takes it to a 3rd game.
Yeah, the snake was filled with Otto. I think it says only with Otto. Yes, nasty.
So there again, I think was a game sort of driven by Mayor of Averbrook. Even though it would never transform totally and produced a lot of wolves, Owen was constantly, in this sort of battle of making sure it didn't transform. Once it did transform, finding a way to destroy it. And even though Owen was also able to expand his board much more quickly than David, in the end, it wasn't enough. Owen's small 2-drop creatures weren't enough to deal with some of David's bigger creatures and David's creature enhancement in the form of travel preparations. So I'm excited to see this 3rd game. I think these 2 decks are pretty evenly matched.
It's interesting because, I mean, it feels to me, only going on what Owen was talking about, that the fact that in both games, Sharfman has been, at the very least in the early game, makes me feel that he's favoured. Yeah, because Owen doesn't really want... as we saw at the end there, when he finally did die, and it's not, never mind that it happened to be Wild Hunger, but when he did die, he had 5 guys on the table and very little toughness between the 5 of them. And almost anything Sharfman has, if he has travel preparations, outclasses the little men that are coming down for Owen.
I think this exhibits sort of a battle between utility and bombs. David's got the bombs in the form of travel preparation, Gavany Township, Mayor of Averbrook, but Owen's got all these really good utility creatures and utility cards, Burning Oil, Abyssinian Priest, things like that. And you know that's one of the things we were talking about earlier with Sealed is you can have bombs, but if you don't have the filler to go along with the bombs, you don't really have a deck. Owen has really good filler, maybe not the same type of bombs, and these guys are able to play on sort of a level playing field.
Well, it's not going to be level for long because there will be a winner, barring some fairly unusual and unlikely draws. There were plenty of draws in Legacy last week in Indy, though no more than in a typical Grand Prix, really. But here in Sealed, it's a fairly fast format. We saw our last round go almost to time. The 3 games between Pat Cox and Max Teethson. And here we go again with Game 3. The 11-time top 8 reigning player of the year, Owen Turtenwald, against the Pro Tour Nagoya champion, David Sharp.
So, I wonder if Dave will have another great start with one of his bombs this game. Either a Mayor of Averbrook or a turn 4 travel preparation flashback. Then it will really be a game, you know.
Mm-hmm. Looks like Louis Scott Vargas has a win. He was lost his first round, thought he was going to be in big trouble. He may still be, but he has a win, so moves to 4-1. This courtesy of Twitter.
Another thing that I see on Twitter is Grand Prix Hollywood champion Charlie Gindy won a Magic Online PTQ just now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we'll be seeing him at Pro Tour Avacyn Restored.
So there we see a very quick start, Lord Cathar Midnight Guard. Opposite, Niblis of the Urn from David Sharp. But again, within the space of 6 land between the 2 players, there are 4 creatures between the 2 players. 2 Midnight Guards between the 2 players. Owen has his all-star Abyssinian Priest.
Here can only tap down the flyer, the Niblis of the Urn, because Midnight Guard is a human. But that might be good enough. I mean, the Niblis of the Urn is really annoying here, being able to tap down a creature every single attack step.
Mm-hmm. Sharfman will add a flyer, it's Chapel Geist.
Another wonderful target for the Abyssinian Priest.
Yeah. Utterly rock solid, that card. So good, the Chapel Geist.
Owen's on 5 mana. Let's see what he's got. He's just going to pass the turn back. I can see what's in his hand. It's a couple removal spells. And it's, really sort of telling thing to be sort of patient with the removal spells. He could just throw away a removal spell here, killing something like the Chapelgeist, but he already has it on lockdown thanks to the Abyssinian Priest. There's no reason to waste it right now.
Yeah. Patience.
Patience is a virtue. It's interesting here to see Owen tap down the Niblis of the Urn instead of the Chapelgeist, because it represents less damage, but
more power for Sharfman and 5 of it.
Thanks to Galvanic Juggernaut. Although Galvanic Juggernaut doesn't seem that great when opposing an Abyssinian Priest.
No, but it shifts what the Priest has to do. The Priest has to do a bit more heavy lifting there. Now the Chapelgeist is up and running.
But it'll just be for one turn because Galvanic Juggernaut won't be able to untap. So yeah. It's true that this turn Owen's going to take, 3 damage probably? 4 damage maybe? 5 damage. Likely because of the...
That seemed to keep going up. That doesn't sound good.
The Niblis of the Urn will be able to tap down the Midnight Guard,
yeah.
And Sharfman will be able to get in with his own Midnight Guard.
So let's watch that happen. There is Galvanic Juggernaut. Everything else comes in. Sharfman says there's tap down the Midnight Guard. It's like you're there with them. It's uncanny.
At some level, these plays are sort of scripted, right? When you look at a combat zone, it's a really useful skill to be able to understand what options are open to your opponent when making decisions for yourself. And sort of predicting what the best option is useful because, you know, if your opponent doesn't make what you think is the best option, that's something for you to think about. Why might he do that? What could he have in his hand? What could he be planning on doing that might make him do that?
Well, right now, he's tapped 5 mana, but he's not going to cast a spell. Instead, he's going to utilise lots of dice. That means Gavany Township. Oh dear. And that's what I mean. Travel preparations was what we were talking about, but the Gavany Township gets to work. There's travel preparations with flashback.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it again next turn.
And next turn. And next.
And now it really does feel like Owen's very outclassed here. 18 to 6 down. He's drawn a lot of land. He's drawn a 7th now. There you see him looking at whether there's a way back in.
The only thing I could think of for Owen here would be something like Blasphemous Act, which I'm not sure he has.
I don't think he would categorize his deck as terrible. I think he would say it's terrible with a Blasphemous Act.
That's true. Owen trying to come up with an answer. I mean, it's possible that he has something similar to Blasphemous Act in the form of Alpha Brawl. I'm not sure how he might characterize a card like that, but
sure.
Alpha Brawl, of course, states target creature an opponent controls deals damage equal to its power to each other creature that player controls. Then each of those creatures deals damage equal to its power to that creature. So it's sort of like a Plague One, a one-sided Wrath of God. But I'm not sure he has it here. He doesn't even have the mana to cast the 8-mana spell.
So Owen's going to pile in. And then, well, he's going to do something with 6 mana. Is it good?
Blood Feud.
Okay. That's not atrocious.
Chapelgeist is going to fight Galvanic Juggernaut. He's going to play a Doom Traveler post-combat to untap his Midnight Guard.
Yep, not the worst from Owen, although he is tapped out, still facing some threats. Gavany Township's active.
Looks like he's going to likely have to chump block a lot this turn, because he's only at 6 life.
There's a phrase you don't like to hear.
Yeah.
Chump block a lot.
Although he's lucky in the sense that he's got 2 creatures that sort of have this semi-undying effect. Loyal Cathar comes back into play transformed. Doom Traveler comes back into play as a 1/1 spirit token. In that sense, chump blocking isn't the worst for him.
Looks like Mr. John Finkel has not managed to win his next round, so he's at 4-1. Here is the chump block a lot that Ben described. Midnight Guard in front of Supercharged Midnight Guard. Loyal Cathar in front of Supercharged Galvanic Juggernaut.
And Loyal Cathar is going to come back this time a little bit more unhallowed.
So down comes the bear with counters. Back comes Unhallowed. Cathar can't block.
What does Owen draw? What could he have here?
Down to 4. 4 creatures on the other side of the table. A very small army on Owen's side. I think we're probably pretty close to game over.
Harvest Pyre?
Okay. Well, that's a start. Oh, moment of heroism. The card that Samuel Lestrati so famously utilised in Honolulu against Tom Martell. Our last Grand Prix winner, of course. And there's the handshake.
That's going to be enough.
Yeah. So Sharfman loses game 1 to the red-white aggro of Owen Turtenwald, but manages to have enough early game to then draw away in both games 2 and 3, which is pretty much what Owen thought would happen to him all day. In truth, that's pretty much the way he drew it up. Not out of choice, but out of an understanding that's where his